Good morning. Good morning from Lille, and welcome at our webinar about the call for pilot actions for our first call projects. My name is Petra Polášková, and I'm the communication officer here at the Secretariat in Lille. And as you can see, I'm not alone here, and I have two colleagues sitting next to me who will help me to go through all the information about pilot actions that you need to know if you want to apply. So next to me, I have Ilaria Piazza, our coordinator for project finances. Good morning, Ilaria.
Good morning.
And at the end of our table, I have Hassan Martinez, our coordinator for projects. Good morning, Hassan.
Good morning, everyone.
So before we start, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. If you are new to our Zoom, you can ask questions. You can tell us where you're from, maybe share some comments. But if you need to ask questions, if you want our two panelists here to reply to your questions, you need to use Slido. You just see the code, how you can get in, and there you can ask your questions. And I also have to say that behind the scenes, we have Charo and Camille who are going through these questions and will be sending them to us in the studio. So do not hesitate to type in your questions as we go through this webinar that will last for about 90 minutes. And we will have a look at them at the end of the presentations. You can also see that we have about 90 participants in our webinar. So you can already tell us in the chat where you're from. And before we start, good morning. Yeah, I can see from Latvia. Welcome. I hope this webinar will be useful for you. Then let's have a look at maybe first question, which is for you. We want you to test out the Slido and tell us, how do you feel about having a pilot action in your project? So let's give it a little bit of time. Maybe you can just get in the Slido and tell us what are some of the words that come into your mind when you think about starting a pilot action in your project, testing something new, maybe implementing a good practice from other regions. So luckily, I see that the top word here we see is excited. We also have curious. Hassan, Ilaria, what do you think about messy?
Well, we hope that after this webinar, you will feel that it will be less messy.
Yes.
Yeah. We also have a bit worried. Hassan, what do you think? A bit worried?
A bit worried about the short time? Well, don't be worried. We will show you some examples where you will realize that with 1 year of testing, in principle, should be enough to achieve results.
Yeah, so I hope that you see that my two colleagues and panelists here will give you all the information to make you mainly excited about implementing a pilot action in your project. Let's have a look. We have a second question for you, and that is, how likely are you ready to apply for pilot action in this call in your project? So again, let's give a bit of time. So are you very likely that you already have your idea ready or almost ready? Or are you just still working on the idea? Or maybe you are not really ready for a pilot, but you still want to have the information. And so far we have 19 people who replied to our poll. And so far we have very likely. And then maybe we can close the poll with 28 people. So what do you think? 72% out of 30 people, very, very likely. Is that what you expected? Hassan, maybe you can...
Yes, this is very good information that the partners have already discussed what is the pilot that they would like to implement. And that it's true that the call will not be very long, and it's important to be ready to have a clear idea of what they want to test, because this will be one of the main successful elements in getting the pilot action recommended for approval.
Yeah. Ilaria, are you excited about getting all these new applications, new pilots?
Well, yes, it's also the first time we launched this call in this period. So, of course, it's exciting. And as Hassan said, it's good that most of the people think they are almost ready. The call is running already. So that's a good sign.
Yeah. So we are very happy that most of you are ready with an idea. And I think at this point, we can have a look at what we will do during this webinar. So now I will pass the floor to my colleagues Hassan and Ilaria, who will guide you through the rationale of the pilot actions. They will also show you some examples of pilots, and then they will tell you about all the details of the call that has just been opened and will last for several more weeks. And they will also guide you through very technical kind of step-by-step how to apply, what to do to apply. At that point, it will take, we will say, about 40-50 minutes maximum to go through all this information, and then it will be time for your questions. So as they are going through all the information, do not hesitate to go to Slido and put your questions there. Our colleagues Charo and Camille behind the scenes are going through it and will be sending it our way. So at this point, I will pass the floor to Hassan and Ilaria to guide you through all that you need to know about this call for pilot actions. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Petra. So welcome again, everyone. It's so nice to see all of you. First Call projects, as you know, you were approved 2 years ago. So you have been working together with your partners for the last 2 years, discovering the policy solutions that your partners have, discussing with your stakeholders, exchanging, learning from each other. This is what we call usually the traditional exchange of experience process. You identify good practices with your stakeholders, you share them with your partners, you discuss at the interregional level about what are the good practices that might be interesting for you to improve your policy instruments. You do the study visits, you go on site to see what your partner regions are doing in the issue addressed by the project. And this is usually enough to ensure that you will transfer these good practices to your territory and that you will be able, thanks to this, to improve your policy instruments. But what happens sometimes is that this, what we call traditional exchange of experience, is not enough to ensure the achievement of results. And this is why the program gives also the opportunity to projects to test, to discover something that might be interesting for you, that you cannot transfer automatically or even with some adaptation to your context, and you need to test it with your beneficiaries. You need to test it with the SMEs that are part of your region, with the young people in your region, because they have problems accessing employment, with different types of users that your policies are addressed to. So this is why we move from this traditional exchange of experience to, learning by exchanging, sharing policy solutions, to what we call learning by doing, testing, experimenting, and see if this program that you discover somewhere could be adapted to your context. This is why we say that we move from the exchange of experience, visiting, staff exchanges, doing interregional meetings, to operational activities, what we call implementation-oriented activities that usually outside of a pilot action, we will tell you that this is not covered by the program. So if we can move to the next slide, you can see the definition of a pilot action as included in our program manual: an implementation-related activity dedicated to testing a new approach to public intervention. We are talking about policy instruments, improving regional development policies. And this is usually the transfer of a good practice that we have discovered in another region, or it might happen that together with your partners during the core phase, you have been working together in a methodology to support female entrepreneurs, for example, or to support, let's say, immigrants. And you would like to see if this methodology that you have worked together with your partners will be, let's say, viable. But usually is a transfer of a good practice. When this pilot action is successful, when the testing is successful, ultimately you need to integrate this activity in your policy instrument. Because the main objective of a pilot action, if it's successful, is to improve the policy instrument that you address. Something that is also very important, so in the definition you see already the main elements that we will see throughout the presentation. It has to be relevant for the policy you are addressing, for the policy instrument you are addressing, for the policy issue, the challenge that you are tackling at the regional level. It has to be also interregional, so the joint character is very important. You need to keep in mind that for us, a pilot to be able to be recommended, it has to be implemented by 2 different countries. This can be because 2 partner regions from different countries are doing the testing, or mainly it's because there is only 1 partner region doing the testing, but then the good practice or the knowledge comes from another partner region. So this is also very important. And finally, the durability. If the pilot is successful, you need to be able to integrate it in your policy instrument, what we call to mainstream it, to scale it up, and to generalize it. So this will show that the pilot has been successful and that you have been able to transfer it and to achieve a result in your policy instrument. If we move to the next slide, we can see here when you can apply for pilot actions. Now, you are all from the first call projects. So some of you already requested a pilot action at the application stage. So you have already been implemented a pilot action. We didn't have too many. I think out of my head that there were, I have my notes here. I'm going to check so I don't say a wrong data. We have like 9 projects from the first call that are implementing 15 pilot actions. But then it's the midterm review, the moment if you didn't request a pilot action when you apply, when your project was approved, it's from the midterm review that you discuss together with the program the possibility to have a pilot action. And this, as you know, we have organized the midterm reviews with the first call projects already in the month of February and March. So all the 72 projects have gone through the midterm review. They are the lead partners, because we mainly do the midterm review with the lead partner, have been discussing with the policy and finance officers about this possibility. What are your ideas? We have provided feedback already to these ideas. If you didn't have the possibility to submit your project idea, you can still request feedback to the program. And this is why we opened this call on the 14th of March to give this possibility to those projects that are interested in applying for a pilot action. So as you can see in the screen, the call will be open from 14th March until 15th April. You will be able, if the pilot is approved by the monitoring committee, to implement this pilot during 2 semesters, semester 6 and semester 7, and then we will dedicate the last semester of the project to improve the policy instrument, to mainstream the lessons learned from this successful pilot action into the policy instrument that you are addressing. If we see in the next slide, then we can give you some examples of some of the pilots that the program has already recommended. And I would like to start first with the previous programming period, with the project Crafts Code. This was a project from the 4th call, which objective was to support SMEs in the crafts sector. And in this case, the municipality of Florence, they discovered this good practice in Ireland, coming from the Design and Crafts Council in Ireland, that which was called Optimize. And this good practice was a fast-track mentoring service for craft companies to help them, this was still post-COVID times, to help them a little bit improve I'm thinking in French, chiffre of affairs, how we say this, your turnover, because the turnover was affected by COVID. And they thought that this good practice could also work in the municipality of Florence. What did they do? Because the municipality of Florence could not provide the mentoring program, they involved a new partner, one of their stakeholders, which is the School of Business and Industrial Technology, which they have an incubator also that is called Murate Park, where they work with entrepreneurs and with SMEs. And what they did was, through an open call, they selected 12 SMEs in the craft sector, so from different areas like jewelry, leather, ceramics. And these 12 sectors, they went through a mentoring program that lasted 5 months with, as you can see on the slide, more than 100 hours of training in everything related to digitalization. So to help them improve their digital skills, to have a website so they could do e-commerce, to do some digital marketing and branding. And this was organized through individual and group sessions with dedicated mentors. And this program was very successful. So the pilot was successful, and they managed to find funding from Documento Único di Programmazione, which is the budget of the municipality, to also finance subsequent editions of this program. So this is an example of a pilot to support SMEs. So you see, it's just, in the case of Ireland, they also had they would provide financing, but in Italy, they decided to only go for the mentoring part of this good practice. And they were quite happy with the experience, and the SMEs in the craft sector also were able to increase their turnover thanks to this advice and support from these mentors. Now, if we move to another example, this example is quite dear to me because it was tested in the city of Gijón in Asturias. I'm from Asturias myself. I spend my summer holidays usually in the city. So I was very happy to see that Emulsa, the municipal waste management company that was lead partner in the Wimpole project, dealing with waste management and how to introduce new technologies in waste management, apply for this pilot action. And what they wanted to do was to test if a pay-as-you-throw system would work in the city of Gijón. You know that usually when we pay the waste management tax, here, for example, in France, you pay a fixed tax based on the members of the number of people in your family. What they do in Asturias, in Gijón, is similar. So they have a fixed tax, and in the pay-as-you-throw system, what they want to introduce is a variable tax. So based on how much waste you generate and how efficiently you do the selection, you pay less. So if you are good in doing your tree and you don't generate too much waste, you don't pay the same as sometimes some families that they don't do the tree and they don't take care of the waste that they generate. So what they did is that they first selected, you can see in the map, 2 areas of the city where they could test this pay-as-you-throw system. In fact, one of the 2 areas is where my parents live, so they didn't were part of the pilot, but I tried to convince them, but it was not possible. And what happened is that they selected 750 families to be part of this testing. And they created this, they did an information campaign to select these families, and they would give them the bags, so they would monitor how much waste and how much selection they were doing during 6 months. The testing lasted 6 months. And what they also developed was an application for the users of this bag to monitor the amount of waste. And with this, they realized that technically it was possible to implement a pay-as-you-throw system. They saw that they could also work with the variable part of the tax. So the better you recycle and you do the tree, the less money you pay in the waste tax. And unfortunately, finally, what they managed to introduce this pay-as-you-throw system in the waste management plant of the city, but they could not implement it in the whole city because it was at that moment, quite a big investment to put all the machines. You need to think that one of these machines to deliver the bags, it costs around 10,000 euros. So they needed to put all of them in the city. But at least I talked with the people from the waste management company, and they were telling me, look, we know now that the system is technically viable. We could implement it. We are still waiting to see if through raise awareness raising campaigns, the people will do the selection right. And then if it will not work, we will force them to go to a pay-as-you-throw system. So for them, it's something that is still there, and they are planning, they say that will be inevitable to probably go through this type of systems.
Can I just maybe small interruption? So all these ideas, how to implement it, came from Italy, other region in Spain, and Antwerp?
In this case, the different ideas came from different partners in the Wimpole project, but also from other cities that they visited during the exchange of experience activities. So from some cities, it was the type of bag system distribution. For other cities, it was the way they calculate the percentage between the fixed and the variable tax. And for other from other good practices, they got this application that the users are employing to check how much waste they generate in a certain period of time.
So that was the interregionality in this specific
of course.
pilot action.
The ideas always come from one of your partners in most of the cases. In the previous case, it was Ireland. In this case, it was a mix from their partners in Italy, Argentina in Spain, and Antwerp in Belgium. Yes. Because again, you know, sometimes it's not only one good practice that you want to use. It could be a combination of several good practices that you discover during the exchange of experience. And finally, we wanted to finish with a pilot from a first call project that was approved at application stage. And this is coming from the Embracer project about intermodality. They apply for this in the application, it was approved, and what they wanted to test is this autonomous shuttle service in the suburban areas of the city of Vilnius. They realized that sometimes for the last mile, people that live far from a public transport stop, mainly families that bring their kids to school, and then to go to the bus stop, they have to take them by car, which is not good. And also workers that to go to work, also the first public transport stop, the bus stop, is quite far from their home. So inspired by this autonomous electric vehicle that they have in Tampere, in Finland, and with the support of their advisory partner, which is the University of Tampere, they thought, okay, why we don't test this autonomous vehicle in the city of Vilnius to do this last mile connection. So it's really interesting. They are currently, the testing was only 2 months. It took a lot of time. Here, the partner is this mobility agency of the city of Vilnius. The associated policy authority is the city of Vilnius. They were also very involved in the pilot because the preparation phase was quite complicated. You need to find the permits to have this autonomous vehicle. You need to first analyze how the vehicle will perform under specific weather conditions, where the vehicle can, how to select which route they would test. They were thinking about routes where the big buses would have problems to access. So how to design, what were the infrastructure adaptations that they needed to do. For example, the city compromised themselves to not to do works in the roads where the vehicle would be doing the testing. And they decided also what type of vehicle they would use. At the beginning, I know that they wanted to do a 12-seat vehicle, and finally they went for a smaller one. The one that you see in the photo is 8-seat vehicle. The charging stations, because it's an electric vehicle, how many stops. So all this took months of preparation, and finally the testing was 2 months. And during 2 months, in a 4-kilometer route, they managed to transport more than 1,000 passengers. So it was quite successful. And now they are studying how to introduce this autonomous vehicle in the sustainable urban mobility plan of the city of Vilnius. So you can see in Embracer, in the Embracer project website, there is a nice video where these photos were taken from, where you can see the small electric vehicle running through this neighborhood in Vilnius.
Very interesting.
So these are mainly the three examples you see. In all of them, the testing didn't take a lot of time. There was a preparation phase, then the testing phase, and finally, in the case of Embracer, they are studying how now to include this in their policy instrument to be able to create new routes of autonomous driving. Also, in this case, it was very important to do awareness to the citizens for safety and security reasons. I don't know if I can put my kids in this little car. Will be safe enough? What happens if there is an accident? So all these elements were tested during this pilot action. So we think that with these three different pilots, we give you an idea of what we are looking for and the main elements that we explained at the beginning. It has to be joint, always two countries. It needs at least, of course. This is the minimum requirement. You need to have this testing character. It's not enough that you decide which is the route. You really need then to put the little vehicle in the route and involve passengers. So this testing element is crucial in the pilot actions. And also the durability. How, if the pilot is successful, you will be able to improve your policy instrument thanks to this. So that's it for the examples. We have more. You can check for more I think that in the program website, there are some articles on pilot actions. And yes, I hope that these examples were interesting for you.
They were certainly for me. Now let's talk about the call for the pilot actions.
Yes, so it's also important to give you some information on the key features of the call. First of all, the call is running already. It was opened on the 14th of March and it will close on the 15th of April, 2025, of course, at 12 noon Paris time, so Central European Summer Time. This is really the deadline for you to submit your applications. There is an indicative budget allocated to this call. The partner states of the program decided to allocate 3 million euros Interreg funds to the call. And of course, the call is about giving the possibility to the 72 first call projects to apply for pilot actions at midterm, as also Hassan mentioned before. Then if we get into the next slide, yes, the application pack, there is an application pack for the call, which is published on the website already. The terms of reference are the key document, I would say, that you should really read carefully because it contains basically all the information about the requirements that the pilot actions must fulfill to be relevant, to be approved, the procedure of the call also. So it's really the document you should refer to when preparing your application. Of course, the program manual, we always have it also with us. You can see it on the table.
It's right here.
Version 4, which is the latest version approved by the monitoring committee in December, and it's also published on the website. In the program manual, you will see there are different sections that talk about the pilots, and they explain again the criteria that the pilot must have to be relevant for the program, and also the procedure for applying to pilot actions at midterm stage. Then it's also part of the application pack, the application form. You will apply for pilots basically in the portal. So your officer will have to open a request for change. And when the request for change will be open, also the application form will be open. There will be a new version of the application form where the lead partner will be able to include information about the pilot in the different sections, and we'll go through them a bit later in the presentation. And there is also the partner declaration template, which is part of the application pack, because we have seen, for example, in the example of Crafts Code that Hassan mentioned before, in that case, there was a new organization joining the partnership because this was needed for the implementation of the pilot. So in that case, an additional partner could be included, but in that case, they will have to sign the partner declaration like any other partner, and this declaration will have to be uploaded in the portal. So if we move on to the next slide, let me go through a bit the partnership requirements. So there are certain requirements that you will have to fulfill and consider when applying to the pilot action call. So first of all, the pilot actions must take place in the partner regions. So it is not possible to add a new region to the partnership. The pilot action should be implemented in the regions that are already part of the project. It is possible, however, as I just explained, to integrate a new organization from one of the regions that already participate in the project if this is needed for the pilot. It must be jointly developed, so there must be at least partners coming from 2 countries of the project or more, like we saw in the example of that Hassan mentioned before. But this is very important. So there must be at least 2 countries involved in the pilot. And as another requirement, there must be only 1 pilot action per region. So there must be maximum 1 pilot action per region per project. In terms of budget, there are also some requirements. In general, there is a recommendation on the budget of the pilot that, based on the program experience, so what we have seen in the pilots that have been financed by the program in the past, is that the budget of the pilot action usually should be between 50,000 and 130,000 euros. This is, let's say, the general recommendation that you will find in the manual and also in the terms of reference. But of course, what is even more important is that the budget is reasonable and proportionate to the activities and consistent with the activities of the pilot. We also would like to draw your attention to the fact that the pilot action will be implemented in 1 year, so in semester 6 and in semester 7, which means that you should also consider the feasibility of what you're proposing and how this is reflected in the budget that should be in line with the duration of the pilot that is also limited to 1 year. Then there is let's say, a point of attention that is also included in the terms of reference, and is that if the project significantly underspent in the 3rd progress report, which is the last progress report that the program received from First Call project, and also based on the discussion between the officers and the lead partner during the midterm review meeting, then if there is significantly underspending, usually we consider more than 10% of underspending to be, let's say, a significant underspending, then the pilot action will have to be financed at least partially through the funds that were not spent in the first 3 semesters. This is because, let's say, the partner states decided on this rule to ensure that the program funds are allocated in the most efficient way. If we then go through the budget categories, so the cost categories that you will have to use to plan the budget of your pilot. So these are, let's say, the usual cost categories that you have in your project, with a small difference, let's say, for equipment and infrastructure and works. When we talk about staff, of course, you will have to plan the cost for the time that your staff members, so the staff members of the organizations, will spend to implement the pilot activities. Office and administration and travel, these are automatically calculated because they are flat rate of 15% of the staff costs. So the moment you will include the staff cost, the admin cost and the travel cost will be automatically calculated. Then in external expertise and services, as usual, you would have the costs for the activities that your own staff cannot carry out. So if you need to involve an external company to carry out certain activities for the pilot, then you should budget the cost in external expertise and services. If I think about the examples that Hassan gave before, for example, in the first pilot you talked about, Hassan, the one about the project Crafts Code.
Yes.
Most of the budget was in staff and in external expertise, because the mentors, exactly, they needed to involve an external company to help them build up the mentorship program.
Yes.
So, for example, in this pilot, we had most of the cost either in staff or in external expertise. Then when we highlighted in gray, let's say, the equipment and infrastructure and works, because you may know in your project, when we talk about equipment, if there is no pilot, usually the most common costs are office equipment. In this case, when you go for a pilot, the program could also finance like technical equipment specifically needed to implement the pilot. And if we go again to the examples that Hassan mentioned, for example, in the example of Gijón, the actual machine was financed by the program because it was bought by the partner, and they could report this cost under the equipment. Because you see, it's considered a machine that can be reported as an equipment cost. Also under...
Yeah, sorry, you mentioned also the vehicle.
Exactly.
Like, yes.
This is what I was about to say. Also in the example you mentioned in Embracer, there was also the cost of the vehicle, this electric autonomous vehicle, which was financed by the project. And in that example, the biggest part of the budget went into financing this, in renting actually this vehicle.
Yes, because they didn't buy it. They did a renting for a period of time, and this renting would include also the technical support for the charging and the maintenance of the vehicle.
Yes, and all this was financed by the project under the equipment budget. Infrastructure and works, it's, let's say, a cost category that it's new in the sense that it can only be used for the pilot actions in Interreg Europe, and it is to cover costs for small-scale building material, permits, labor needed for works. In the example of Embracer, there was a small budget, I think around 5,000 euros, for adaptation of the infrastructure of the roads,
yes,
to allow for this electric vehicle, let's say, to run properly on the street. So you see again an example, and when I say small scale, it's quite important because in the example of Embracer, we are talking about, for example, 5,000 euros. It could be more, but it should be, we are not talking about heavy infrastructure. We are not talking about financing big investments, heavy works. Again, we are talking about small scale infrastructure. It's also important to underline that there are some timing issues to take into account. If you have to contract for big works, this takes a lot of time. It's obviously not feasible to do this in a 1 year time. So this is why, and I think it's also highlighted in the terms of reference, that the program cannot finance big investment or heavy infrastructures. I then put like a point of attention on the slide because it is not possible for Interreg Europe to finance a subsidy which goes directly to third parties. So a direct subsidy to SME, this is not possible. If you have doubts on whether your pilot action includes something like this, so whether it can be financed or not, don't hesitate also to check with your finance officer. You may even already discuss this with them in the midterm review, and if not, if you have a doubt, don't hesitate to check with them. If we go to the next slide, yes, the co-financing rate are exactly the same co-financing rates of the program that you should already be familiar with. So public bodies or public equivalent bodies get 80% of Interreg funds, and the rest is covered through their own contribution, 70% for private partners. There is, again, here a point of attention for Norwegian partners, because there are no additional Norwegian funds allocated to this call. There are only Interreg funds allocated to the call, which means in practice that if partners from Norway want to participate to the call, they cannot receive additional funding. So they will have to finance the call through their own underspending if needed. And then I let Hassan
Okay, so
explain.
So how to apply? Again, this you can check in the terms of reference, but mainly if you are interested is always through your lead partner. This is very important that you inform your lead partner of your interest to apply for a pilot action, because it will be the lead partner doing the main link with the program, with the GS, with the policy officer and the finance officer. So for this, the lead partner will have to send an email to both the PO and FO monitoring the project, and also to projects@interregeurope.eu. We added this additional email in case neither the PO or FO will be in the office. They will be maybe on a business trip. So to make sure that we receive the request and that we will open the request for changes procedure for you. As Ilaria was explaining, we will just, it's very quickly on our side. We just have to fill in the instructions that you will receive, and we open the application form and we inform you which are the different sections that you need to fill in. This, we will see it later on. It's also very important for you to keep in mind that you can only apply once. So if it's very important that you discuss with your partners who would like to apply for a pilot action, because if we open a request for changes and you put 2 pilots, and then you send the request for changes, and another partner wakes up suddenly and says, no, but I wanted to also to submit a pilot action, this will not be possible. So be careful before you submit your request for changes with all the information in the application form to make sure that it reflects the demand of your project partners. And then also everything will be done online as usual through the portal, and it will be, as Ilaria was mentioning, very important to respect the deadline, which will be the 15th April at 12 p.m. midday Paris time. Don't wait until the last moment to submit your request for changes. As we always say, try to do it a few days before to avoid any technical issues last minute that will unfortunately make your application not eligible. So these are the main steps. Then once you submit your request for changes, once the call is closed, as usually, we will do both an eligibility assessment and a quality assessment. For the eligibility assessment, we are applying 3 criteria that, again, you have in the terms of reference. The first one will be respect of the deadline. We will not accept any applications coming to us later than the 15th of April. Then this application has to be complete, meaning that you will have to send the request for changes, plus the partner declarations, if applicable, meaning if you have a new organization from your region, from your stakeholder group, that will be important to join the testing, we will need to receive a partner declaration from them. And then what we call the correctness, which is that all the fields in the application form need to be filled in. Be careful that if in the durability of your pilot action you put not applicable, or you don't fill in this section, or you just put very little information, it will mean that we will not be able to assess properly this application. And also the declarations have to be properly filled in and sent as they have to be signed, they have to be the right declaration. There will be the possibility to do a healing procedure only for the partner declaration. So if the partner declaration, but you need to send it, but if the partner declaration is wrong, it has a wrong name, or it's not signed, we will give you, in case the pilot is recommended for approval, the possibility to send it again. So these are the main 3 criteria for eligibility: deadline, completeness, and correctness. And then we will apply the quality assessment criteria that you have in the program manual and also in the terms of reference, and that mainly through these questions, both the policy officer and the finance officer will do the assessment of your application. The first one would be the relevance of the proposal, meaning that how the pilot action will have to contribute to the learning process. You need to be aware that the interregionality of a pilot action is not because of its joint character, meaning that it's done by 2 different countries. You also need to explain how the pilot will also come back to the interregional exchange of experience, how you will share the lessons learned in the pilot with your project partners, even if they are not involved in the testing. interregional character, so this we just mentioned, and then criterion 2, the quality of the expected results. So is the testing character of the pilot clear? It's not only about designing a methodology, we will test the methodology with our beneficiaries. The durability and the policy relevance. Again, it will be very important that if the pilot is successful, you already have a clear idea on how this will be used to improve the policy instrument address. Innovative character of the pilot action. So it's something that we have not done before in our local context or in our region. Then we will go finally to, before we go to budget, to criterion 4, coherence of the proposal. So this is also very important. Is the pilot action, the activities that I will want to do properly defined? Most of the pilot actions that we receive at application stage were not recommended because it was not clear what the partner wanted to do. Sometimes we would read, we will discuss with our stakeholders how we will select this. Then we would say, look, this is very vague, we don't really know. So be always very precise in describing your activities. We need to know step by step what are you going to do in the preparation phase, during the testing, and during the evaluation of the pilot to then be able to mainstream it. How all this is integrated in the exchange of experience, again, you will have to design and define these activities in the work plan in semester 6 and 7. So how then this will connect with the interregional level. And then if you need a new partner, is it justified? Why we need to integrate a new partner? In the example that we mentioned before for call for crafts, the municipality of Florence, they needed this business support organization because they were the ones that were supporting the SMEs, and they were the ones that were already implementing mentoring programs in the municipality of Florence. So they were the best stakeholder possible to ensure that the pilot was successful. And then the last criteria is the budget. I don't know, Ilaria, if you want to say a few words
Yes.
other than the ones that you already mentioned.
Well, I mentioned before, the main point is that the budget must be in line with the activities, the outputs, the duration of the pilot, which is 1 year. Again, we make a reference to the program's recommendation because it's in the manual, it's in the terms of reference, it's what pilots usually cost in the Interreg Europe context. Maybe just a word on the fact that when you will plan cost in external expertise, in infrastructure, if applicable, equipment, try to be very precise in the descriptions because we really need to understand what services or what equipment you need and to be able to make the link with the activities that you will describe in the other sections of the application form. And we will also check if, as I said before, if the project significantly underspent, usually more than 10%, whether you really used these unspent funds to finance the pilot. This will be, let's say, the elements we will look at when checking the pilots on the budget side.
Mm-hmm. So again, these are the questions that you should, when you draft your pilot action application, you need to go through these questions to make sure that you are answering properly to all of them, because this is mainly what the policy officers and finance officers will do when they assess your application. Now, we are not going to do scores as we usually do in the normal project calls that, for each criteria there is a score. In this case, in order to simplify the process, it will be only 3 possibilities for each criteria. Is the criteria fulfilled, partially fulfilled, or not fulfilled? It's very important for you to keep in mind that if one of the criteria is not fulfilled, automatically we will not recommend the pilot action for approval. Some lead partners during the midterm review, they ask us, but what does it mean partially fulfilled? Partially fulfilled, it means that it complies with most of the elements of the criteria, but there are some little things that we would like to clarify or that we would like you to better define in the application form. This is like when your project was approved under conditions, so it will be the same. The pilot action will be recommended under conditions, and this is because some of the criteria will be only partially fulfilled. But again, you need to pay attention to all the criteria because if only one of them, if the joint character is not demonstrated, or if the durability is not explained, or the activities, the testing is not clearly defined, then automatically we will not recommend the pilot action for approval. Then,
so just maybe
yes.
to very quickly summarize, be specific, provide a lot of details, maybe have a look at some other examples, and then now mainly follow how to submit the application. And let's maybe run through it, at your kind of as fast as we can, because I heard we have plenty of questions in Slido so that we can cover them. So let's have a look. What do you need to do in the application?
Okay, so as I mentioned before, how to apply, we open the application form for you, and we are going to use two examples. We are using a first call project, a Scale to CT. I would like to thank Fomento de San Sebastián, who is the lead partner, because we know that they would like to apply for 2 pilot actions, but this is just an example, and we are using a real project from the first call. So let's imagine that Grenoble-Alpes Metropole in France, they have discovered this InnoSocial Metro good practice. It's a good practice that you can check in the project website, and it's about funding projects that SMEs, micro and small enterprises would like to do, but that they have to have a social impact. So a social impact on employment, or sustainable tourism, or sustainable business methods. So this good practice allows to introduce indicators to monitor how a project that is for profit will have a social impact in the community. So for the French partners, this is very important. They would like to test it in their area. So we see here that we have the joint character. You have the French partner testing and the Italian partner providing the knowledge, providing the experience. So when we go into the portal, we introduce the pilot actions in the policy instruments. So here you can see in the screen that we have the 6 policy instruments of the project Scale to C, and the second policy instrument is the one from Italy. This is the one, but it should not be the one from Italy. I guess that we should have selected the one from France, because France is the one that is...
the one below.
Yes, sorry for this mistake. But you select the French policy instrument, because the French region is the one that is testing. So if we move forward, we go into the policy instrument, and you will see policy instrument. We have territorial context, general description, addressing partners, stakeholders, pilot action. So we click in the pilot action, and you see, is a pilot action proposed to improve this policy instrument? Usually would say no. We click yes, and then we ask if this pilot action will be implemented in another region. In this case, because we are only testing in France, we will just say no. Then we move on. You see that here we describe the core features of the pilot action. You will see that there is no too much space. And this is why, as Petra was saying, we need you to be concise and to clearly explain what you want to do, but without a lot of words, because the test field is rather limited. So you put there the title of your pilot action, and you explain the nature of the test. What do you want to test in your territory? With which beneficiaries? How you are going to, what is your idea for a pilot action? If we move forward within the core features, then we go to interregionality and contribution to the learning process. There you need to explain how this pilot is connected to the interregional exchange of experience process, and how the lessons learned from the pilot will be coming back to all the partners involved in the project. And then you see this question, because we are only to test it in France, in Grenoble, but because of the joint character, we will ask you which other project partner from a different country will be involved in the implementation of the pilot. And for this, we will need the metropolitan city of Turin, which are the owners of the good practice that will be tested. And then we will have to explain what will be the role of this partner in the testing. They will provide the knowledge, and they will be there to support the French partner in trying to open this call with these indicators to analyze this social value of the project. Finally, very important, the policy relevance and durability. If the pilot is successful, how the policy instrument that the French partners are addressing will use these lessons from the pilot to make this program available in a bigger scale in the Grenoble Alps area. And finally, additionality. Here is just a simple click. If we move back to additionality, where you will have to explain, can we go to the previous slide? You will have to explain, just clicking, you see, if you confirm that you cannot finance this testing through any other local, regional, or national funds. And then once the pilot is described with all these elements, core features, interregionality, testing character, durability, who is the joint character, then this section D3.4 of pilot action is complete, and then we move on to state aid. And for this, I will pass the floor to Ila.
Yes, in fact, I forgot to mention this before, because when we were going through the different criteria and the quality assessment, one of the questions that the finance officer look at is whether the pilot action falls into stated rules, so if it's stated relevant. Normally in Interreg Europe, when you carry out your normal project activities, due to the nature of these activities, there is no state aid. But with the pilot, we will have to look at this, and we will have to check if there is any activity that could bring an economic advantage either to the partner itself or to a third party. If we go to the next slide, you will see that in this section D, there is a questionnaire for you, for the partner, to basically help the assessors, help us to check if your pilot is stated relevant or not. So there are a series of questions you will have to reply to. And in case there is no economic advantage, is not an economic activity, you simply reply no. But if there could be an advantage for the partner due to the implementation of the pilot, then you should reply yes. And if you reply yes, you will see that you will also provide, you will also need to explain why you replied yes. Just to tell you a bit, to put you into the context, in Interreg Europe, usually pilot actions in Interreg Europe don't really provide a direct advantage to the partner. These are mainly, you are mainly public authorities. What could happen is that there is an economic advantage to a third party. It is, for example, the case of Call for Crafts with this training that were offered to the companies. So in that case, indeed, there was, let's say, an advantage provided to these companies, and therefore the pilot was stated relevant. In any case, even if it is stated relevant, then basically what will happen is that certain rules will have to be followed, certain state aid schemes will have to apply, and this will be done together with the finance officer, who will explain to you which rules applies and which procedures you will have to follow. So basically, this is just a tool for us to help us assess your pilot when it comes to state aid. And you also find more information in section 2.7.4 of the manual. If we go on, then you see that you will have to describe the activities of the pilot also in the work plan, semester 6 and 7. Here, we know it's challenging due to the character limit, but we really ask you to be as precise as possible so that we can understand concretely which activities will be implemented within the pilot, and we can really understand what will happen on the ground. If we move on to the next slide, yes, we see semester 7 as well. Now we go to the budget. So in the budget section, you will have to basically include the budget of the pilot. In our example, we highlighted both the city of Turin, you can see in the slide, and Grenoble. Usually the big bulk of the budget goes to the partner which is actually implementing the pilot, in this case, it would be Grenoble. The donor partner, what we call the donor partner, which so the partner who has the knowledge, who has the good practice, in this case Turin, may have some budget, for example, some staff costs needed to support Grenoble in implementing the pilot, but usually the big bulk of the pilot goes in this example to Grenoble. You will see there is no separate budget, the separate section in the application form for the pilot action budget. You will have to add include the cost for the pilot in section F1. And if we go in the next slide, we can see that in section F1, basically what you will have to include are the staff costs. You will simply have to add the staff costs needed for the pilot, for example, in this case, to Grenoble. Office and administration will be automatically calculated. External expertise, you see in the next slide, you will have to create the items in the section external expertise, create the item. In the next slide, you see that you will have to select as type of cost pilot action and then put the amount. And in the description, I mentioned it before, please be very precise. Describe clearly what is the service that you need and link it to the activities and the outputs that you have included in section D and in section E of the application form. Basically, the same principle applies to the equipment. Again, type of cost is the pilot action, the amount that you need to plan, and be very precise in the description, and the same goes for infrastructure and works. Then in the spending plan, section F6, you see that for both partners involved in the pilot, you will have to include the costs of the pilot action in the spending plan of semester 6 and 7, in line with the fact that you are describing the activities and that you will implement the activities in these 2 semesters. In the next slide, you see in case the project significantly underspent in the third progress report and based on the discussion in the midterm review, usually by more than 10%, then you will have to make some changes also in the spending plan of the first 3 semesters to basically allocate and shift the funds that were not spent to the spending plan of semester 6 and 7. Hassan mentioned it before, do not worry too much. We will send you precise instructions when we will open the application form, also depending, let's say, on the situation of the project and what we discussed with you in the midterm review, especially when it comes to the budget. So you will receive clear instructions on this as well when we will open the request for change.
And then we wanted to show you another example very quickly. And this is the case where there are 2 partner regions doing the pilot action. So both Grenoble and, in this case, the Ministry of Economics of Latvia would like to test this InnoSocial Metro coming from Torino. And in this case, if you see in the next slide, we go through 2 policy instruments. So Grenoble, the 2 that we'll be testing, the pilots are always inside the policy instruments. So in this case, we will have to go to policy instrument number 3, the one from Grenoble, and policy instrument number 6, the one from Latvia. So we click in policy instrument number 3, again, pilot action, and you will see is the same as before. Is the pilot action proposed to improve? Yes. Is the pilot also proposed to be implemented in another partner region? In this case, yes. It will automatically open in which other partner regions. So you will have the policy instruments, and we will have to select policy instrument number 6. That is the policy instrument that the Ministry of Latvia is addressing. So we click number 6, and then in the next slide, you will see that, as in the previous case, we will have to describe the pilot action in Grenoble. So you put the core features, again, interregional contribution, link to the policy, link to the policy instruments, so the relevance and durability, and additionality. Then we will have to go in the next slide to policy instrument 6, and you will see in blue, so the name of the pilot action and the core features of the pilot action will be the same. This will be copy-pasted automatically in the portal from policy instrument 3 and will be automatically pasted in policy instrument 6. The only thing that the Ministry of Latvia will have to explain is the policy relevance of durability, which will be particular to the policy instrument that they are addressing, plus the additionality. But you will see all the information. You will the pilot will be the same. The only things that might happen are in the work plan, because some activities might be slightly different, and also the way the pilot, if successful, will be mainstreamed into the different 2 policy instruments. If we move on, then you will see that We will open only because even if it's one pilot action tested into regions, we count it as one pilot action. And there you will have to do the activities that will happen in semester 6 and in semester 7 and adapt it a little bit to the two different territories. Maybe Grenoble and Latvia will do a similar step-by-step testing, or in some cases, Latvia or Grenoble might have a slightly different approach. And this, in any case, it will be described in only one box because we will consider it only as one pilot action. So semester 6, semester 7, as Hilaria was mentioning, we need to be precise, really describe the activities so we know at the end of the day what will be the process and how you will do the testing. If we move to the next one, then we have some final recommendations that most of them have been already described. We saw the survey at the beginning. It's nice that the big majority of you have a clear idea of what you want to test. This will be very important. Apply only if you have a clear idea of what you want to test. If the idea is not mature enough, unfortunately, and most probably, the program will not recommend your pilot action for approval. You need to be specific, so you don't have a lot of space to write, but be clear, be concise, plan a reasonable budget. We only have 1 year to implement, so be careful. Sometimes, if you cannot do big, very ambitious things, remain realistic. Do not wait until the last minute to ask for opening the request for change or to send the application. And of course, both the policy officers, the finance officers will be there to help you. If you have any questions, contact always your lead partner. The lead partner will come to us. If you face difficulties when fulfilling the application form, if some questions are not fully clear for you, we will be there to support you throughout the process until the call will be closed.
Well,
sorry. Yes, finally, one last thing. If you haven't received feedback to your pilot idea, it's still possible to do it. Your lead partner asked for an annex with some information if the pilot makes sense or not. We still will be providing feedback while the call is open, but the only limitation is that we can only provide one feedback per pilot idea. That's it.
So collect all the questions that you have and then ask for it so that you get a complete answer from us. With this, I don't want to take more time. We have a little example for you in a video from Spain about photovoltaics and building energy communities. So let's have a look at that and then we immediately go into your questions.
Gracias a la energía solar conseguiremos que con este proyecto un grupo de familias del barrio disfruten de energía eléctrica renovable mediante paneles solares fotovoltaicos instalados en las cubiertas de colegios públicos de la zona.
This is the aim of the pilot project that the Andalusian Energy Agency is developing in the Torreblanca neighbourhood of Seville, thanks to the European project Poverty, which aims to overcome energy poverty through renewable energies. Torreblanca is the 4th poorest neighbourhood in Spain, where paying the electricity bill is a difficult challenge.
Este es un barrio en el que hay un elevado nivel de desempleo y hay mucha cantidad de familias del barrio que tienen muchas dificultades para cubrir sus necesidades básicas porque tienen unos ingresos muy ajustados.
En invierno hemos pasado algunas veces un poquito de rasca. Yo me echo la mantita y no enciendo el radiador. O sea que hay que administrarse la luz como el dinero.
Yo tenía lo que era una cámara que tenía 3 motores, pero la tuve que quitar porque gastaba muchísimo.
Here, several associations and entities have joined forces to create an energy community that will generate renewable electricity from the sun and share it with vulnerable families in the neighbourhood for free through collective self-consumption.
La cooperativa Son Energía impulsó esta comunidad junto con agentes sociales y los colegios del barrio, creando la asociación Torreblanca Ilumina.
Torreblanca Illumina received a donation of photovoltaic solar panels from Holland, a great boost for the project, but there was still a long way to go to set up the energy community.
Teníamos los paneles solares, pero necesitábamos solventar muchísimos aspectos más de tipo jurídico, técnico, sociales, y para ello solicitamos la ayuda y la colaboración de la Agencia Andaluza de la Energía.
The Andalusian Energy Agency is leading the European project Poverty, which has financed the technical assistance to optimise the installation of self-consumption and to analyse the procedure for the transfer of public roofs, in this case of 2 schools.
Con Poverty también hemos ofrecido asesoramiento legal para identificar la figura jurídica más idónea para una comunidad energética y, lo más importante, la dinamización social para que familias y comerciantes puedan formar parte de esta iniciativa.
Single parent families with incomes below the minimum wage, migrants, elderly women who live alone, all of them live in old, low energy efficient homes. The Andalusian Energy Agency, together with the Torreblanca Illumina Association, has worked very hard to involve the families and shopkeepers of Torreblanca in the project, through participatory workshops and an energy office that has advised the neighbourhood during the development of this project.
He aprendido muchas cosas que no sabía y no entendía, y ahora gracias a ustedes me habéis explicado cómo van muchas cosas que yo no le veía sentido, ni sabía cómo mirar siquiera el descuento que me venía en la luz.
Esta iniciativa que se va a desarrollar en nuestras escuelas es una muy buena oportunidad.
Una experiencia para nuestros niños y niñas. Y por supuesto para nuestras familias.
An energy community that hopes to increase little by little.
Con el apoyo del comercio y demás personas del barrio continuaremos creciendo.
In addition, the Andalusian Energy Agency will make all the results, experiences and knowledge gained from this project available to other initiatives that contribute to alleviating energy poverty. Torreblanca is now a protagonist of the energy transition.
We don't hear. Thank you.
Now you can. Sorry, we'll come back to the studio. I was muted, so you couldn't hear me, but I just wanted to note that my colleagues here to answer your question changed. Thank you to Hassan Martinez for presenting all this information about the call and the pilots. But now next to me, I'm happy to you see Nicolas Sanger, our head of unit for projects and the platform, and Ilaria, the coordinator for financing projects. She's still here with me to answer your questions. So let's get into it. Our first question, this one, our stakeholder is the main knowledge holder of the pilot action. Is it possible to compensate their time through external expertise budget, as they might not have the funds to come in as a partner? So this is mainly about finances. So Ilaria, maybe this is for you.
Yes, so for if the stakeholder remains in the project as a stakeholder, then I mean, you know that usually the costs that are reimbursed are travel and accommodation to travel to the events. So you will not be able to finance their time, their staff time, if they are still in the project as a stakeholder. So they should come as a partner if needed and if relevant, as in the example of the pilot action that Hassan showed before.
So if this stakeholder is actually important for implementing the pilot, then maybe filling in the declaration, becoming the partner for this pilot is possible, and then some funds can go with it.
Because otherwise it will not be possible.
Okay. I hope this answered your the question. Now the next one: can a pilot action be carried out for different policy instrument than the one in the application form? I suppose this might be mainly for you, Nico.
Yes, good morning to all. First, very happy to be there also. The answer to this question is yes. It can address a different policy instrument, the pilot action. It makes, however, your application a bit more challenging because, as you may know, and you've seen it from the presentation of the portal, there's no possibility to update the policy instrument addressed. But we are aware that the reality is always more complicated than the theory. So after 2 years, you may have realized that it would be more relevant to influence another policy instrument. And this needs to be explained in the little fields that you have seen. So it's a bit a challenge for you, because especially in the durability, you will need to explain very briefly which policy instrument is addressed now by this pilot action.
So what would you advise? Should they mainly talk with the policy officer, finance officer, how to go through the application? Yeah.
I think it's going through, we've seen very clearly the different sections that are indicated. The most important in case you really want to address a new policy instrument is the one on the durability, because this is where the officer judge the relevance, policy relevance in a way of the pilot action and the policy framework, but the text is limited. So you need to be very specific and very synthetic in the way to explain yourself.
And when it comes to the technical side of actually linking it, because we saw that you need to link it to a specific
It will
policy
remain in the
instrument.
same region. Grenoble, for instance, we had this example of Grenoble. You would still go to the policy instrument of Grenoble. There's no change in that regard. It's just inside this section of the application form that you would need to give a bit of information on this new policy instrument.
I see. Okay. Okay, thank you. Now, next question. How do we request feedback if we haven't already? Through the lead partner? I suppose
yes, I can confirm that, as Razan say, you have to go through the lead partner. The lead partner principle apply, and the lead partner will finally confirm the application in the end. So it's very important to go through the lead partner. And I think we mentioned also a bit before, it is important to look at the Annex 2 of the midterm review guide, because this Annex 2 is a one page where you can describe your idea. And it's only on this basis that our colleagues, the policy officers and the finance officer, can provide you with the feedback. So you complete this, you go through your lead partner, and you contact us, and we will do a feedback as soon as possible.
Okay, and as we know, we have with us some people from projects without their lead partners present. So get in contact with your lead partner, discuss this with them, because they are key. They play a key role in this process, applying for pilot action. Next question. From what date can pilot activity expenditures be considered eligible costs? Can we begin incurring costs before the official pilot action starts and then submit them? Ilaria, clearly a question for you.
Yes, so there is not a specific date from which, let's say, the eligibility of the costs related to the pilot start. It's the same eligibility period of the project. Of course, the implementation should happen in semester 6, start at the beginning of semester 6, but costs incurred before, if they are linked to the pilot, for instance, everything that is related to the preparation of the application is fully eligible, and you can report it.
So it's possible. The important is the link with the pilot. Very good. Next question. When it is said that it is compulsory having at least 2 regions in the pilot, this can be one as a donor and one as an implementer, right? If yes, both should have staff costs. So maybe for the first part, I let Nico to answer, and for the second, Ilaria. So first, can it be donor implement?
Exactly. I think I confirm completely what is written there in this question. And I think the example provided by Razan, the first example, is exactly about that. It comes from the Italian region to a French region. You understand that the joint character is linked about the fact that it's a kind of transfer from one region to another one, although, of course, the implementation takes place in only one region, Grenoble in this example, but the donor will come to help, to pass the knowledge, to pass some expertise, to make sure the pilot action is smoothly implemented. For the staff cost, I think you have mentioned it already.
Yes, yes, I've mentioned it. Usually what we see is that the donor can have some staff costs to support for the time they will spend supporting the partner implementing the pilot. There is not an obligation. We also had pilots where the donor was not, did not have any budget. I think this was even the example of Wimpole that Hassan mentioned before, but both options are possible. We would not be surprised to see some staff cost planned for the donor, but there is no obligation in that sense.
Okay, so 2 regions have to be there to have a pilot with the staff cost not necessary. Next question. We want to test a good practice that included teaching on a local level. Can we engage and pay local experts for teaching like it was done in the good practice? This is more on the activity side, so I suppose it's more for you, Nico, I'm afraid.
I can try to answer, but I'm sure Ilaria will correct me if I'm wrong, because I think it's still related to the financial arrangement. If I understand well, Ilaria, the costs are eligible if they are paid by the partner organization. That's essential. So if a third party suddenly pays the teacher, unfortunately, this would not be possible. But if it's the partners, the organization that is partner in the project that pays this teacher, then in principle that should be eligible.
Yes, in that case, I mean, in your second option, it would be like an external service contracted to implement the activities. And if this is done in line with the rules of the partner and following all the right procedures, this could be possible.
Okay, so thank you. We have a next question. Shall we count with the unspent amount in period 1, 2, and 3 above 10% in the pilot budget? This unspent amount can be automatically included in budget of the pilot. So this is clearly a budget question, Ilaria.
A very specific budget question.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so in principle, if you have unspent funds in the first 3 periods that go above this, let's say, our internal reference of 10%, then yes, they should be used for the pilot budget. You should count on these funds in the pilot budget. They are not automatically included in the budget of the pilot. I'm not sure what you mean by automatically. You will still have to make some modifications in the application form, in the budget section, both in the breakdown table, but also in the spending plan, to basically allocate these amounts that were left unspent to the pilot budget. I said it before, this is quite technical, but don't worry too much. We will include very specific instructions on what modifications you need to do in the application form if you face this situation of having to use the unspent funds.
So you will get the more specific information if that's your case. We have another question, and this one. Does a pilot action also need national co-financing?
I mentioned it in the presentation. The same co-financing rates apply to the pilot action activities. So 80% if you're a public body, 70% if you're a private partner. So it means you will still have to finance through other funds the partner contribution. Obviously, in some countries, this is covered by some national public co-financing schemes. And what I can recommend you is to check with your national authorities, the national point of contacts. You find the details, the contact details in our website to check exactly how it works for the national co-financing in case you are entitled to it, in case your budget is increased due to the inclusion of the pilot. So you should check directly with them what kind of procedures apply.
So go to our website, to the country page that is related to you, check about the national co-financing, check with your point of contact, and you will see for the other part. One part is from us, the other part you need to check. Next question. How should the original application be modified in the portal, and what steps are involved in that process? Well, we saw kind of step by step, but can you summarize very quickly?
Yes, so what will happen is the lead partner will ask us to open the application form, and we will do it. We will open the application form, the request for change, and then the application form will be open, and you will be able to modify the different sections in the portal directly. And again, once the officers do this, they will also send you some instructions. So they will explain really which sections you will have to modify and how. And of course, then if you have still any questions, you can directly get in touch with them.
Yeah.
I think we will also share the presentation with us. So you will really see specifically, even if you haven't opened the request for changes, you can really see specifically the fields that are concerned. And there are not so many. It's mainly in the policy instrument section and the work plan that needs to be updated.
So you will certainly get this presentation. You will get a recording of this webinar to review, maybe with your partners, with your lead partners, what to do. Another question. How many pilots may be asked per project? Nico.
Well, we could say that the maximum is equal to the number of policy instruments in a way, but there's a very important rule in the program is that you can request a maximum of one pilot action per region. It's a demanding exercise. It's something a bit challenging. And in the lifetime of a project, one region should be involved in a maximum of one pilot action.
Yeah. So would you have maybe a recommendation for
we don't have
our
real
part?
recommendation. We have an interesting project in the first call where, for instance, I think almost all regions test a pilot and a similar pilot. So it can be considered almost as one, but it makes complete sense for this project. So it really depends on the project, its feature, its objectives. It's difficult to say. There's no real recommendation in terms of number of pilots. There's just this limit of one maximum per region.
Okay. For the policy instrument that they're
Yes.
addressing. Yes. So it's the limit of the policy instruments that you're working on. Next question. If an external entity for the university has been engaged to supervise the activities, should this university enter? And is it required to sign the declaration template? So I think who takes this one?
I may answer it because this is a discussion we had within the policy officer unit. We would be very careful with such an approach. In principle, the organization involved in the pilots have to come from the partner region. As Ilaya said at the beginning, there's no possibility to involve another region. So in principle, you should not have an organization outside the partnership area. If for one or the other reason, the pilot action is so specific, so specialized that you may need an expertise that is coming from outside, then, as Ilaya said, this is a normal external expertise through normal procurement that you need to do. But in no case, this foreign university will be involved as a partner because it won't be possible according to the program rules. I don't know if you want to add anything, Ilaya, on this.
No, I think we covered it. If there are any questions and specific points, I think it will be your policy officer and finance officer dealing with this. At this point, I see our time is getting a little shorter. We still have 9 questions to answer. We will answer them, so don't worry about that. We might stay a few minutes longer if necessary. But let's get into the questions right away. Is it true that only the lead partner can edit the budget? Ilaria.
Well, I assume you refer, this is a rather technical question, whether it's only the lead partner having the rights to edit the budget in the application form. Usually it is the lead partner. We would expect it's them working on the application form, making the modification. It's them usually having the admin rights in the portal to do that. So usually it's the lead partner based on the input received by the other partners.
Yeah, so the answer is basically yes, but you are the ones also providing input to the lead partner to do the changes necessary. Next question. If the pilot action is to be financed through the applicant partner's underspending, but the donor partner of the good practice to be implemented does not have underspending, but even has an overspending and cannot use its budget to allocate, for example, personal costs, would it be a problem? So a little bit of underspending, overspending. Ilaria.
I think probably with this question, it's important to clarify that when we talk about underspending, we talk about underspending at project level. We look at the underspending at project level. So if a project level due to the different partners over underspending, what we care is at project level, if there are funds that remain unspent after the 3 semesters by more than 10%, then they will be they will have to be allocated to the pilot. And since we look at the project level, it means you will have to discuss among the partners how to deal with the situation. If there is a partner that is overspending and is involved in the pilot or is not underspending, then funds from the partners who are lagging behind should be used for the pilot. We know this can be a difficult discussion within the partnership, but this is what we look at. We look at the project level underspending.
So you have it clarified. You might have some hard discussions in your project. Then next question. Is there a procedure for securing, applying for national co-funding for increased project total costs for those having extra funding from Interreg Europe for pilot actions? So here we are back to the national co-funding. Check with your country points of contact and then the overspending. I don't know, do you want to add?
No, I think we addressed this question. They should check with their national contact points to see what procedures are in place.
Exactly. Next question. When it will turn out that how much amount of the pilot budget will be financed by the program and how much by the unspent amount of the project? So when will they know whether they will get a little more or just need to use the underspending? Do we know when?
They should know already. They should know already because this is based, the underspending, and we check PR3, the third progress report that we received is the last one we received. And this was discussed also with the lead partner during the midterm review. So the project should know if they are in that situation or not.
Okay, so again, check with your lead partner. If you don't know, it's a result of the midterm review. Yes. Next question. Can a region test a pilot action in several areas with different characteristics? This one I will pass to you, Nico.
Yes, thanks. Yes, we can answer yes, it can. In a way, when we saw the Vilnius example that Razan presented with a bus, I think they tested it in several parts of the cities. So it can also be in several parts of the regions. However, with different characteristics, I'm not exactly sure what this means. You have to be very careful because the more complicated your pilot is, the more challenging it will be to explain it in the application form. So the application form is limited with a text. So we would advise you to simplify as much as you can your idea for the pilot action. It would be easier for you to explain it than in the application form.
Okay, so keep it simple as well. Another question, is there a minimum budget per partner to be spent in the pilot action?
There is not a minimum budget per partner. The recommendation of the program applies to the pilot action per region. In any case, even this minimum recommendation of 50,000 euros, it's just a recommendation, it's based on our experience. We saw pilot actions in the past that went even below the ceiling. If this is justified by the pilot activities, then it could be possible.
So we are back basically to it's the activities that define the budget, and that's important. Very good. Next question, again about budget. Does the budget recommendation 50,000 to 130,000 apply to the whole pilot or to each of the regions participating? It's a very similar question as the previous one.
And I don't know, Nico, if you want to say anything, but it's per region. So yes.
I think it's an important question because it's not always totally clear. But in the example that we took earlier today, you remember there's a possibility to implement in two different countries the same. Then it's per region that implement, because otherwise it would be very limited, the funds, if you test in two regions. It's per region that you have this recommendation.
Yeah. So it's really kind of 50 to 130,000 for that testing region.
Exactly.
Yeah. Another question, can an advisory partner be involved in a pilot action with additional budget? So first, maybe can an advisory partner, that's the first part.
Yes, this is another interesting question. Anyway, if it is involved, it will have it could have additional budget. The only thing is, yes, it can potentially, but it would necessarily be a kind of donor of something, because we know the advisory partner are specialized in certain domains. So sometimes the knowledge or the practice even sometimes come from the advisory partner. But I think that the only configuration where we would see an advisory partner being involved in a pilot action. As an advisory partner, I'm not addressing any policy instruments, so I cannot implement any pilot action, of course, because I'm not addressing policy instruments. So as a donor, I would say yes, if it's justified, this can be possible.
I see.
And then he would, of course, request additional budget if needed as a donor region. We mentioned
probably for that staff that we mentioned before. Very good. Thank you. Another question. Can we add a person from the staff to implement the pilot? So that's more about the staff costs.
Yes, this is possible. If you need an additional person for the pilot activities, then it's possible, and you should include their cost in the pilot action budget.
So possible. Very good. Quick question. And the last one, a stakeholder is the main knowledge holder. They provide training workshops for a fee related to pilot action. Since we would like to pilot it in other country, can we include workshops in external expertise and services cost category? So first, it's a little bit about this, like who gives this knowledge? And second, how to put it in the budget. So let's focus first on the activity.
Yes,
who shares the knowledge.
To be honest, I'm not sure I fully get the question. We mentioned earlier the stakeholder. If a stakeholder is strongly involved, it has to become a partner, because otherwise we cannot recognize his staff time spent. But in relation to a fee, this lost me. Maybe Ilaria, you can help. This is becoming a bit delicate also to get fee. What is sure is I can imagine under external expertise, you can have
Yes.
workshop cost and these kind of things.
I am also a bit puzzled by the fee question, because yes, in principle they could provide training. We see this that providers are contracted to provide workshops. This is a cost that in principle is eligible under external expertise and services, but without further information on the actual nature of this activity, and especially some clarification on this fee aspect, it's difficult to give a precise and concrete feedback.
So again, when you're discussing this, when you're clarifying it, go to your finance officer, go to your policy officer to discuss, clarify, so that you know and get a more precise answer, because we cannot just from few words to guess what this means. Well, thank you very much for all the questions that you submitted. At this point, let's move on. And thank you, Ilaria. Thank you, Nico, for answering all these questions. You can find all the information that we presented to you at this page on our website. So please go there. And you will find all the documents, you will find the terms of reference, you will find the declaration that's needed in case you will involve a new person or new institution in the pilot. We will also publish the recording and the presentation of today's webinar on the event page. So you will find it there. We will share it with you. At this point, you also see our feedback form. So please let us know how we did with this webinar, whether you learned from this enough to start kind of thinking and implement and asking, preparing the application, preparing this request for change, this application for the pilot action. If we can go to the next slide. We also have a small reminder that there are upcoming thematic events. As you are from projects, you might have a look what might fit your topic and meet other projects in these events and continue with the exchange of experience and learning. With this, I would like to thank everybody for contributing to this webinar. Mainly to our speakers. Jason is no longer here with us in the studio, but to Jason, Ilaria, and Nico for presenting all the information to you and answering your questions. Also to Charo and Camille, who were dealing with the questions, and thank you very much for submitting so many of them. Thank you. And also to my colleagues from the communication team, Marie, Lisa, Hannah, for running this webinar. So thank you very much. We will look forward to getting your pilots, to getting all these ideas that you want to test in your regions and improving your policy instruments. Yeah, so keep in your calendars 14th of April. Is
15th.
15th, sorry, 15th, not 14th,
of April.
15th of April, noon. It's really the lunch that's important.
Time, yes.
Yes, submit everything, prepare everything, be detailed, be concise, so that you can test the knowledge coming from other regions. With this, thank you very much. Wish you very nice afternoon and goodbye.
Bye-bye.